Hello, everyone. Welcome to another special episode of Carlton People. This is episode number 43, and I thought it would be fitting that we get this gentleman on board. You may or may not know him. His name's Anthony. Kouta, how are you, mate?
Very good, Terry. Yourself?
Yeah, very, very good, mate. I was looking forward to this. I had this sort of pre-planned in the back of my mind. Once we crept up to 43, I was waiting to shoot my shot, and I was lucky enough for you to say yes and give me a time, mate. I really appreciate it.
That's all right, mate. Anything to do with the 43, I'm happy to take it on board, mate. I love that number. It was real significance for me. Obviously, my mum was born in 1943, but just that number means the world to me. So not a problem.
No, it's awesome, mate. Basically, what we like to do here with Carlton People is just interview Carlton people from all around the world. Everyone's got a different story. Mostly fans. Here and there we get a player or an ex-player in your case. And I just want to basically touch base with you, see how you're going. I'm sure a lot of the fans would want to know what's happening in your world as well. And we'll get into the nitty-gritty about, what it was like being a Carlton person and what it is like being a Carlton person. So why don't we start with, how are you? What's happening in your world?
Yeah, everything's good. I've been extremely busy during these crazy times, and unfortunately, I know a lot of people are suffering. But for me, it was just as soon as we got locked down, I was like, man, where is it from here? And I instantly just went, okay, whatever happens, I'm going to make sure I stay fit. I'm going to make sure I work on myself and come out a better person out of this period. And I just set some more new goals, Terry. And no different to what I did when I played footy. I didn't want to just get into bad habits and sleep in and do all those things and become this person afterwards, just all, grumpy and whatever it was. So I did that. And this period has been really good for me to be able to just focus on myself, my business and my family. And so it's been an absolute blessing, in all honesty.
Yeah. It's funny because we here in Australia, here in Melbourne, we're a very structured society, the way we go about it, the Monday to Friday for a lot of people. And obviously with yourself, you've got your online your own business online, your training, Herbalife. You've got a few different streams of activities that you do. And with that comes a really solid routine, which you've probably been in now for, years. So take me through the process of, the news, and then, coming to the realization that, hey, I have to now change things up, and obviously you lead your brand and you lead your business, and you've got people in your, in your family, not just, by blood family, but, your Herbalife family and your Koutoufides family. How did you keep on top of yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, obviously everyone was just shocked, everyone, when it first happened, but for me, everything fits under the umbrella of Koutoufides, but my nutrition is mainly the Herbalife products, as people know. I mean, it changed my life 9 years ago. I was a non-believer, skeptic, to one that absolutely fell in love with the products. And not to say I don't eat whole food, whole foods. I definitely do. I still love my foods. I grew up that way, having an Italian mother, and I'll never change my way from that. But the product had a major impact on me. And so in becoming, growing an organisation, I've got to be a leader. No different to the Carlton Football Club. Sticks led us for so many wonderful years and was an incredible leader. I have to lead my team too. And so while people may be in shock when all this has happened, I've had to stand up tall and say, that's all right, guys. Like, whatever happens now, we have time for ourselves, to build ourselves up, to work on ourselves daily, to get the mindset right. And what I've realised after footy, because footy I came in with so much talent and ability, but there's so much of its mindset too. And so I had to learn a lot about that. And I had all the attributes to be able to do the things that I did, but I really had to work on it mentally as well. And I've seen a lot of players walk in that had so much potential and walk out because they just didn't implement it the way they should have, and walked out not being or achieving anywhere near that they should. So for me, I just kept doing what I was doing, leading the way. And it's amazing what's happened now that I've been able to focus, because I had a lot of talks, quite a few talks booked in early this year, which was a bit unusual, to not normal to the other years. So look, I had to obviously take a step back on all the talks that I do and flying interstate, the footy stuff and all this. And it's been a blessing in disguise for me to be able to just focus on my business and watch it grow. We're expanding now internationally as well, with some team members that are joining from overseas, which is just a real exciting period for us.
Amazing, mate. No, it's really good to hear. Really, really good to hear. Your well-being comes first, and you seem to be on top, and you lead as well. And you touched on leadership, and you touched on sticks, and I do want to go back a little bit because I do believe, me personally, there's, with the current footy club where it's at, obviously a younger group trying to rise up the ranks and all of that. I can't help but feel like there are, we've tried to move away from the old Carlton because the landscape's so different. But having said that, there has to be something that we can take from the time that you played, when you played under great leaders and you had great people around you. I want to ask you, what makes good leadership and what makes a good culture?
I walked into the most incredible culture, Terry, and that wasn't, that was just decades of success and leadership. John Elliott, to me, was the greatest president. I don't care what anyone says. I'll back him to the tilt because I was there as a player, and I know how I felt as a player when Jack was around. And before a game, when he'd come and touch me and say, "Your day today, Kouta," mate, I'm telling you, my hair stood up, and if he said, "Run through that brick wall," I would have done it for him. And I felt like I was part of the family there. The other board members that came later were the complete opposite, didn't want to talk to you, didn't look you at the same way as what John did, and you just didn't feel like you were part of the club. Felt like I was in a zoo, basically. And so I learned a lot through that period, man, and in terms of coaches and coaching styles too. The coaches that embrace you and love you and like you, you go out and play and do whatever you possibly can for them. And those that were different and, weren't as appealing as the other coaches, it was just hard to play. To me, the game was hard enough without that sort of stuff happening in your life as well. I mean, we live our life on how we play the game, and we lose, mate. I'm down in the dumps. We win. I'm as happy as Larry. I love that footy club. I love playing finals footy. I only played 13 finals. I wish I played 30. I love playing finals footy. Is what I played for. I love the Carlton Football Club. I was honoured that I got to play that footy club. I got the letter at the age of 14. I was a mad Collingwood supporter. Silly, but I fell in love with that football club, and I was blessed. I'll never ever forget walking through the corridors of that football club. That old under the Heatley stand, and the prestige, the history, the success, the power of that football club, and looking alongside and seeing all the 200 game players. I didn't feel like I belonged there, but after time and the teammates that you have, and you start to feel like you're part of the family, you start to blossom, and that's what happened with me. I learned so much throughout my time, and Sticks led it, but it wasn't just Sticks. You had always lieutenants, maybe 13, 14, 15, 16, 18 others that led the way as well. And so we trained hard, we played hard. When it was time to train, we went hard at each other. If we had, a few players, if they had to fight each other, they would. Not to say that it's a good thing, but we were competitive. And on game day, as we ran, across that white line, we were together there as, one team, man, that wanted to win for the pride of the jumper and the love of the club, and for the supporters too. There was nothing better than playing at Princes Park, and that halftime we might have been down. The third quarter we go and kick 10 goals, and to hear that, the 25,000 people screaming at Princes Park, it was like playing in front of 100,000 people at the MCG. I loved it. I'll never ever forget those moments, and I don't think the Carlton supporters that were around that time will ever forget it too. I felt like I was part of the family. I can't speak on the last 5 years. I'm not going to be negative on this call either, but it was the complete opposite of what it was previous to that. And it's sad because you build up culture for decades and you lose it overnight just because different leadership comes in. Jack was the greatest, man. He was just loved the club. I almost felt like he always probably wanted to play for Carlton but never had that ability. But by him being present, he felt like he was part of the players. And Terry, like, you go and grab your three best players after a game at Princes Park and you bring them up to the social club and you go and sing that song with pride. I mean, that's culture. You know what I mean? That's leadership, man. We embrace the supporters and we're part of the family. We knew all the workers there. We'd go around, have a laugh, like we were united as one. And when you lead that well from the top, you have success down below. But if you're not led well, then you lose that. I learned so much playing footy that I try to be the best leader that I can for my troops. Give them love and support and believe in them, maybe more believe in them than what they do themselves, to try to reach deep within them, to hopefully to see that they can go and succeed in life too. Because I've seen a lot of players that should not have made, they should not have made the senior list or should not have played so many senior games. And I've seen them do that all because, number one, they wanted to do it, but number two, they gave their all. And number three, they probably had someone by their side supporting them there at that football club to give them that belief,
Yeah. For me, I was born in 91, so I'm part of a generation where a lot of the stories of the mighty Carlton Football Club are really, they're passed down onto me. I mean, 95, I was 4 years old. I don't really remember it. You were the first player that I remembered that stood out. You know, when you were a young kid, I'm sure you were the same. You were a Collingwood fan. I don't want to talk too much about that, but we'll address it quickly. I'm sure, you know, when you're a kid, your first memories of heroes are, for Australians anyway, are your footy players. So you were sort of that first one for me. And I look at the way you speak about the club, and I've heard Ange talk on another podcast as well. I've heard some of the guys from your era talk about the club with, like, every time you start talking about your time there, you just go into a different zone and a different reality. And it's just so passionate. And I just can't help but feel like I haven't experienced that kind of love. Not to say the players don't want to play for the club, but you guys, the way you talk about your time there, it's so refreshing.
Yeah, Terry, it's funny because, you know, I was mad Collingwood, and at the age of 14, living in the Carlton zone, I got the letter to go down the football club. And I remember looking at the Carlton emblem, I'm like, man, these guys beat us every year. And my brother broke for Carlton. I was just like pissed off, but I was like, why Carlton, you know? And I went down and I played 2 years under 15s there, made the Victorian team. And then I got invited to the under 19s. Luckily, I had my older brother Paul there, because I was a bit like, geez, I'm not sure if I really want to be here. But he was there, and some of my other good local mates that were great footballers were down at the under 19s as well. And so, you know, I never forget those moments, because to me, I became a Carlton person because I walked into that wonderful football club and they were led so brilliantly, and the people around there and the culture that they had was, I'm glad I ended up at that footy club, because if I ended up somewhere else, I would be probably a completely different person, and walked in with great leadership. So I love the club because I know from the age of 14 all the way to the age of 34, I gave my heart and soul and did everything for that football club. You know, under 19s, I think I played 38 games, reserves 50 games, and I won reserves best and fairest. I left everything there on the track. I know I wasn't probably myself in the last 5 years. I still gave my all, but, you know, it was different and difficult times with everything that was going on with the club. It wasn't an environment that you would look forward to turning up to every day. Unlike the first, 11, 12 years when I was at that footy club, that was just absolutely magnificent, the way that they were to unite everyone together as a team. And so I know the history. I've been through it in my head. Like, I mean, it's pretty hard when someone's been around the club for 21 years to understand. I've seen the good and the bad and the change overnight of what occurred. So I know deep within me, I know exactly what occurred. And people might have their opinions, but the facts are I was there in a sanctum, in the club rooms, and seeing everything unfold in front of my eyes, and some of the stories that went on, So I love the club, man. I envied the club. It was so powerful back in the day. I want the players to understand what it was like for someone like me as a young kid to walk in this powerful club and understand the joy of representing that football club. I know the players love the club, and I know they give their all. I don't care what anyone says. When you run out there, you give your all. But at the end, it's a culture, the leadership that makes such a big difference at a footy club. And that I can't tell you what it's like from afar. I can only judge as an opinion. I'm not there. And, I feel like the guys that are getting there, they're getting there. They're getting there. I'm very content with the way they're going. But I just want them to experience a premiership. It's been 25 years. I want them all to experience a premiership so they know what it means to win a premiership at that Carlton Football Club. We'll have 100,000 members again, if not more, once we see that start to happen. There's no doubt. We've got such great supporters. Yeah, Terry, it's funny because, the supporters in my time, you'll get some that were maybe not quite, but 99% of them were just beautiful people that just loved that footy club. And maybe I didn't understand it as a younger kid, but as I started, get a little bit older at that football club and start to see the same people around, you understand that they're just normal people that love their footy. And so I was lucky. The current supporters are the best supporters, I think, anyway.
Yeah. No, I think it's spot on. I think you really embodied that. I mean, we met, I think it was last year. And, my little 5-year-old self was, would have been tripping out because, you were Kouta. You were just such a big figure for me growing up, and you really helped me to latch onto the club. That's how you start. And then you sort of realize, I mean, I think probably with age and experience, you become a man. I'm an adult now, and I look you in the eye, you look me in the eye. We're just two blokes trying to make a buck, trying to earn a living, trying to be healthy, trying to pay our bills, trying to raise a family in your case. And there's a beauty in that. So how have you gone from, how was the transition from player to, I guess, fan now? Because you've always been a humble guy.
It was a difficult period in the first 3 years when I left the football club and announced my retirement. I did try to get back in there, but, there was nothing available for me. So I felt like I wanted to give back to the club because they gave me so much joy. But, I guess the doors were all closed for me and I had to move on. It was a very difficult period in the first 3 years, mentally too. You come from the highs of the football club thinking that I'd maybe be around for a lot longer, but it wasn't the case. And so I really had to find myself. I guess I look and admire because I kept writing down goals and I was reading and I was just trying to get that mindset right because I was at a low period in my life, and I'm sure it's no different to someone who's been in the working environment for 20 or 30 years. And I don't know right now, I'm sure there would be a lot of people that are suffering, going through worse pain than what, I was going through. But it was a tough situation, working at a job that I was really unhappy with. Not that I didn't dislike the boss. He was a good man. I couldn't see myself being there for that long in that culture and that environment. I'm driven. I understand what it takes to be successful. I love goals and I want to get up in the morning and look forward to what I do. And now that I work, not having a boss, working from home, it's just been an unbelievable life-changing experience for me. And it's all because the product changed my life. And then the business part of it intrigued me through a lot of skeptical people that have no idea really what goes on with the business, who just have opinions but not the facts. I always say to them, come in and have a look how wonderful this company is. And so, it's been an absolute blessing, I guess, since then, but a lot of hard work, Terry, and that doesn't stop, whether you're playing footy or whatever. I mean, the hard work continues on. The obstacles keep coming. The battles keep coming. Even a couple of years ago, I felt like my mindset, anxiety was settling in, a little bit as well. I'm not some immune human being. I am a human being, vulnerable as anyone else, but I continue to just work on myself to get myself better mindset-wise as well. Yeah.
Is that something, I mean, you mentioned before how, after your career finished, you were looking at hopefully sticking around and passing the knowledge down. I guess what you would have told the guys 10 years ago to now might be different. What would be sort of on your priority list of things you would pass down to the boys and the girls, I guess, that play at the club now? What's some of the knowledge and wisdom you'd pass down?
I understand that your time does go quick, although you don't, feel like it. The intensity of training, there's all these little things that I learned along the way, Terry. But I felt like because I played in every position, I could coach a lot of players and help them. You know what I mean? Like little tricks that I learned from, like Barry Mitchell, who was Barry Mitchell and Wayne Britton taught me so much about the game. I owe them so much. And Barry, took an interest in me, and I love Barry, and I adored him. But some of those little tricks that he taught me was like, oh, wow, okay. Oh, am I allowed to do that? Like, no other coach said that I could do that. I was a bit like, sometimes I felt like I was stuck in a cage and wasn't let loose the way that I feel like I could have played a lot of the time. And being a bit of a patch-up utility player too, if they needed me at a certain spot, they'd be like, even if I was going okay, they'd be like, okay, Kouta, you're over that side of the ground now, or we need you over there, or whatever. It wasn't like I just played in the midfield. I did it for the sake of the club. But yeah, like it would have been nice to have, gone there and maybe teach the guys a few little things that I learned, man, whether I was playing in defence or forward or midfield or in the ruck. Like I understood every position and what to do, but it's not the case. I'm not some big head that will walk in and go, oh, mate, this is how you do it. The game has certainly evolved from there, but really the basics will always stay the same, and then some of the things that I used to do before a game to help, whether it was my marking and stuff like that, I'm sure I could teach the guys a lot of the stuff. I'm past that now, Terry. I've got so much on in my life. But, I'm forever indebted to that football club. That I can assure you, because it's hard. Like they say you always look forward and not look back. But how do you not look back to, the greatest period that I had in my life throughout the 90s and early 2000s, hanging out with the boys at that footy club, training hard, drinking in the weekends. It was just a wonderful time to be an AFL footballer. And we played for the pride of the jumper and gave everything that we possibly could in a very, very physical game. And believe me, I've got some battle scars now, eh? These shoulders don't move. But even though they don't, it was just worth it to be able to live my dream and play AFL footy.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to touch a little bit on sort of the second half. I mean, obviously, we've gone from a really raging, successful football club And then I don't want to go into the details of what happened. Long story short, we had some punishments. Things happened. And you touched on how it was just a different vibe to be at the football club. A lot of the fans, excuse me, myself included, can't help but feel like we're still feeling the pain of the punishment from, early 2000s. Do you feel the same way? Or, I mean, is it one of those things where it's so hard to build up how great we were that we're just going to have to wait it out a little longer? Or is there something we can do to fix things?
No, I think to me it's a cop-out. I understand it was a setback, but it's a cop-out, man. Like, we're talking almost 20 years later, we're still going to turn back and that and say, oh, because of that, we've never recovered. That's a lie. We've had so many number one draft picks and everything else. Seriously. Anyway, any other club that would have had so many draft picks would have been, I'm sure would have been in a different state. You can't tell me because of 2 plays we missed out on that. It set us back that much. Please, we can go back and to see all the players that they got rid of in the time. Anyway, I don't want to go into the negativity of it. We just need to improve on it and move forward from it. I know what happened. I know exactly, what happened. But anyway, we move on from there, Terry, and I don't want to really talk too much about it.
Understood. No, I get it. I want to get your thoughts on Simo, because you were there from his early days. And I guess I just wanted to get your thoughts on, obviously we lose him as a player in 2020, and he seems like a guy that's, very, keeps to himself, and we probably won't hear from him, very similar to the Bruce Doull type. So what is your memory of Cade Simpson?
Well, what can I say? He should not have played that many games, man, when you look at him physically. What an absolute superstar. You know what I mean? Like, how? I don't know. What I can't judge and look at players is what is inside of here, what they see in their heart, their mind. And that's what he had, something special in there to be able to do what he did. I never would have thought when he first walked in the club that he would have played, that many games, maybe 100, I don't know. But you could see him starting to evolve over time and how courageous he was for a guy that had that skinny body and put his body on the line. And, he found this incredible position that just suited him and his game style. And the guy just made the most of it, looked after himself, stayed lean. He never hit the waist like me, mate, carrying around all this muscle, trying to run around and break packs. You didn't have to do that. Smart, man. It's longevity stuff, but phenomenal to see him play so many games. What a wonderful individual. Probably could have played on. I'm not sure what occurred there and whatever, but at the end of the day, his career is far. He's one of those guys you look at and go, mate, gave his heart and soul and gave everything that he possibly could and got everything that he could out of football. When you compare him to some of the other players that had so much ability, who didn't work as hard or, didn't do the disciplined things that would have helped them hang around the club a lot longer. So full credit to Simo. What a magnificent career for a guy that's just he's an outstanding individual.
Yeah. I mean, you would have seen, like I said, the very early days, the famous days where his first 3 games didn't touch much of it, and you were probably at the peak of your powers at that point. So you've got a really solid insight into the man he is and the player he was.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know if I was at the peak of my powers, maybe just dwindling a little, but. Yeah, I know after his first few games when he couldn't get a kick, man, it was like, it might be a bit of a struggle, but he showed everyone that, he turned it around. I mean, someone in history who couldn't get a kick for the first 2 or 3 games went on to play as many games as he did, way over 300. So
yeah, especially when you get things like, I mean, we're on a Carlton fan channel made by fans, and that sort of stuff wasn't around back then. Social media has obviously changed not only the footy bubble, but the whole world. I just can't even imagine the scrutiny that would have come to him and every player, every young player coming through trying to just figure themselves out without having, fans and media people talking about them and picking them apart. What's your observations of this world that we're in now?
It's a different world. We have to accept it. Some people try not to embrace it. I've embraced it. I've always tried to be a guy that's low key and not give too much out there, but now that's the world, you know what I mean? And I enjoy now actually giving value to people, trying to teach them what I've learned along my journey, instill some mental toughness into them. I walked in as a young kid, man. I wasn't ready for it. I had a lot of bad habits when I first started playing footy, and because I was around an environment of a lot of success and incredible players, I was lucky that I got to learn. So I had to grow up quickly if I wanted to play senior footy and learn from the guys around me what they did. And by doing that, I started to see a lot of little holes within my world that I needed to fix in order to start to play senior footy. And that's what I did. So the environment makes a big difference. So I walk into this incredible environment with great leadership. I learned from them and was able to then go and fulfill a lot of my dreams because of that. And so, yeah, so social media is a big one now. I've definitely embraced it, and I try to give you as much value to people out there as possibly. If I can help a young kid, who's in his dreams to play AFL footy, how good's that? Like I had migrant parents, they didn't want me to play AFL footy. My brother and I said, no, we're going to play. And so we went and played, and they became our biggest fans after that, and got to witness the grand final in 1995. I'm sure as much as it was the greatest day of my life, I'm sure it was probably theirs too, I mean, they were just over the moon. So were my brothers. So just magnificent times. And social media is a big one now. And so we just got to,
Yeah, it's the accessibility. Obviously, it's just the ability to get in touch with anyone, anywhere in the world, almost at any time. I'll give you one more question or point before I let you go, Kouta. People who want to get involved with Koutoufides or the work you're doing, I know where to find you, but if someone's watching this and they're not sure, they want to maybe, put the line in the sand and get themselves healthy, where can we find you?
Yeah, just on Instagram and my public Facebook page. I have 2 private Facebook pages too, but the public one, you can message me on there or on Instagram, and I usually try to get back to people. In particular, if they want to lose weight, gain weight, increase energy, we have free online workouts. And so it's a wonderful thing. We've helped, like our communities, just helped so many people transform their lives, both with their health and their wealth, which has been really exciting. And I want to continue. I've got a lot more that I want to do in this field and go and fulfill a lot more dreams before, I don't know if I ever want to retire. I'm not sure. Anyway, not yet. I just want to keep doing it, but I've always got that balance between, because I work from home and it's a lifestyle business, I've got that balance between work and family. And family is really important for me too. And I spend a lot of time with my kids. I train with my oldest boy, all this stuff. And, I love spending time with my kids and traveling with them too and stuff like that. So it's the right balance and mix for me to be able to grow something and also spend time with the family.
Yeah, mate, a couple of Laylaw high boys like us, we don't know anything else other than work, mate.
Exactly. You're right.
Kouta, thank you so much for your time. As I said, obviously a lot of the fans, we loved you as a player. More importantly than that, though, you're a great human, you're a great role model. Obviously, like I said, I went to Laylaw Secondary, 10, 15, 20 years almost after you finished, and you sort of been there, someone from the northern suburbs that's been an inspiration to me and other kids as well growing up. So thank you. Please keep it up. We're in your corner, and this has been your episode of Carlton People.
Thanks very much, Terry. It's been a privilege, mate, and honour. So thank you.